Welcome everyone. This is the first episode of a series of videos which will discuss Jacinda Ardern's imposter syndrome. The first episode will present how this mental health or psychological condition might have played a role in her resignation specifically. This will open up pathways for us to explain why all her arguments, what she gave at her resignation, are true, namely fatigue and burnout, and also why the commentators, for example Michael Lowes, who said that she just looked into the future and saw her election chances, which were not good, and she just jumped ship. These views seem to be also good once we dissect how the imposter syndrome might have caused this. The second episode will discuss how the imposter syndrome influenced her policies and politicking, and the third episode might reveal some ways how she can overcome this mental health condition. Before we start this discussion, I have to tell you that it has been an emotional issue for me, because in 2017 I myself subscribed to the Jacinda mania, and it went down on me quite nicely, and I was enthusiastic for her, and I even brought 3 policy proposals which I discussed with the local Labour MP, who encouraged me to send them to the corresponding ministers: housing, budgeting, taxation, and also employment relations ideas. Well, from this stage I got to a point in 2022 when I could not listen to her speeches, and when she was talking she kept annoying me and I had to overcome this disappointment and resentment before I started researching this topic more thoroughly, and hopefully you will see that I am as objective as I can be. But to preempt the main messages of these videos, I have to tell you 3 things. This situation and her condition is very, very complex, and I will tell both positive and negative character features about Jacinda Ardern, and because her character at the time now is very divisive, I think I will receive anger and hate with criticism from both sides, both from people who hate her and who still love her. That's okay. This is an open discussion here. Nevertheless, keep respectful. So what are these 3 things? First, I believe that she was a visionary politician whose dreams must be realized, and either in housing, social policies, welfare policies, her visions were great. Now, the second thing is, because she enjoys politics, because she is happy being active in our political life, I am pretty sure that she will resurface, but after a long process when she deals with her mental health conditions. Well, I am not a doctor, I cannot prescribe anything, and if I were Jacinda, I would want to get second opinion, of course, maybe even third opinion. It's all hers. And finally, before we dive into this, I need to tell you that when people are falling out of love from each other, they should remember that there was a time when they loved each other. the same should go with Jacinda Ardern. The majority of the New Zealand population loved her, and we have to remember those times. Now, coming to her resignation, for me it wasn't a surprise. Since the end of the Delta lockdown, I was telling my friends that I think she just gave up. She couldn't stick to her guns and take chances with 2 or 3 more weeks of lockdown to eliminate the virus in Auckland. And I strongly believe that when she had faced her election chances, she might realize that she would not want to fight another campaign through. That was my argument, and why I argued this was very simple. In 2019 I had to resubmit my PhD, and I had an unfair examiner, and it was an uphill battle. During the process I realized what the burnout was, but I kept pushing myself, and I could develop a strategy by which I could overcome the burnout. It was difficult, yeah, but it was manageable in the end. And there was a request. Resubmission is seemingly easy. Students just have to do what the examiners ask them and then resubmit. Well, I had one specific request which practically asked me to quantify the qualitative. I knew that philosophically it is impossible, but I didn't know whether the examiner asked this because he knew it was impossible, so he was evil, or because simply he was just philosophically illiterate. I guessed it was the second, but I couldn't be sure, so I developed an argument which was acceptable for me, but I had to take the chances. Eventually it turned out that he was just illiterate philosophically, but I had to take the chances. Now, this kind of devotion to take chances in an uphill battle, that it was what I missed from Jacinda Ardern when she ended the elimination strategy in October 2021. And I even argue that she had a very easy career path. After she finished university, she immediately got a job as a researcher in Helen Clark's office, which was a good reference to get a similar job at Tony Blair's department. It was an easy career for a start. Then in 2008 she became an MP, and from then on she could just develop her popularity. It was an easy career. She never had to face a strong battle. She never had to fight hardly and persistently for a goal. And at the time I didn't know that she had imposter syndrome, about which she was open. That's why I have the courage to talk about it too. But yeah, that was my argument then. Now the key thing here is to take chances. But what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome, to put it simply, it is when an individual questions her own intellectual capacities that causes anxiety, and these people become perfectionist. Nothing is good enough for them until it is 100%. And it makes them push their limits. It makes them hardworking people, which is kind of a good sign. And in their early years they do become very successful. Yeah, I am not saying Jacinda Ardern was lazy in her career. No, not at all. But her career wasn't challenging. And okay, this is one side of it. Now, think through that when someone pushes herself to the limit and sometimes even beyond, that can cause exhaustion, of course. And I have to add that it puts an enormous pressure on the nervous system too. Probably you remember when in interviews she was arguing and shaking her hands and her full body was moving with it. Now that was a signal for me that her nervous system was under a great pressure from her mental health condition. From this point of view, it is easy to imagine that she got burnt out. But when did it really start? And was it the imposter syndrome ever from the beginning, which was diagnosed when she attended university? Who knows? Now I will play a YouTube interview which was organized by staff in 2018, and in this interview, actually it's a stage discussion between Helen Clark and Jacinda Ardern about gender equality in New Zealand. It was organized for the 125th anniversary of the female suffrage, and Helen Clark raised an interesting question. I am not playing the video, I just play the sound of it because my technical capacities are not strong enough to process the recording and the video at the same time. The computer just gets slow, pardon me for that, but these 40-second experts from this staff interview will show you what I mean, and it's gonna be an indication when her mental health condition started to drain her down. So remember, the video was in 2018.
So what for you have been the proudest moments in your career as a woman trailblazer?
Well, I guess, I almost feel like I haven't earned my right to have a moment like that yet. I'm only a year in, and I keep thinking, gosh, Helen did 9 of these. I have to keep going. There are things, I know the things that make me feel motivated in politics, and just before I came here, today I was reading an email from someone who said, thank you for the families package. Because of you, I've been able to give my son guitar lessons. And
yeah, I think you heard it. Even though it was a casual discussion between Helen Clark and Jacinda Ardern, she joked about how exhausted she was after 1 year. I believe it's possible because she kept pushing herself to the limit all the time. It was quite a commonplace that she could work day by day with only 4 hours sleep from 5 a.m. until 1 a.m. During the day, and she was indeed a hard worker. Now think about the following. When she faced this year and she worked hard, she realized that to keep Labour's election chances alive, she realized that she should have worked even harder. Her exhaustion was true, and she knew it. So we should give her that. However, on the other hand, it's of course caused by partly the imposter syndrome. I don't have a psychological degree. However, I know enough to identify that every person, even though it's a collective concept, every person is different in a way. And in Ardern's case, I think this mental health condition caused her to not think in situations which might lead her to take chances. Now, what do I mean by it? It is striking how ineffective she was when she didn't have authority, formal authority over people. The example what I tell you is from her first term, when she was in government, in a coalition government with New Zealand First. And one of the ministers delegated by New Zealand First, Shane Jones, made critical comments about the New Zealand Indian community. And he said that, yeah, the law didn't allow them to bring all their families into the country. In the Indian community, it is traditional that they have arranged marriages, and that means the requirements what immigration law impose on people, namely they have to live together before they can establish a partnership or a marriage, it's not possible in the Indian tradition. And he also made critical remarks on the Indian business practices, and the Indian community raised their concerns. They said Shane Jones might have been racist, but there was no apology. And in an interview which was organized by the Indian community here in New Zealand, the interviewee kept asking Jacinda Ardern why she didn't request Shane Jones to apologize, and she kept saying that she couldn't intervene into a Democratic Party's internal dealings. She was the Prime Minister. What she could have done was simple: ask Winston Peters to think it through, because this problem might have come back to both of them, and Winston Peters should ask Shane Jones to make apology to the Indian community. It could have been possible, mostly because there was a similar case in 2008 what actually Helen Clark performed with Peters. Helen Clark was Jacinda Ardern's role model. This interview what I played you already showed. And Helen Clark could ask Winston Peters to resign. There was a scandal then. The Serious Fraud Office started investigating into donations to New Zealand First Foundation, and Helen Clark could tell Winston Peters that, hey, this could come back to us, and then we are both sinking. So Peters was cooperative and he resigned. Why could Jacinda Ardern not go on this route? Yeah, Peters might have said no for her request. She should have taken chances. She just didn't go that way. And I think this is caused, this very specific condition with Ardern is typical, and this is also caused by this imposter syndrome. Now, I can tell you more examples about it. I already told the Delta outbreak, where I believe it was possible to eliminate the virus, but she just couldn't wait it out. She should have taken chances. Again, there was a campaign in 2020 when she was asked whether she would stay on as leader of the Labour Party if they had lost, and she said no. Why not? Probably because 3 years in opposition might be a challenge, and she should have taken chances. It cannot be certain that they can come back. And finally, I can tell you that Nana Yamahuta was even within the Labour Party. And last year, Nana Yamahuta organized a secret cooperation with the Green Party to entrench the state ownership of the voter assets with 60% majority. And the Labour caucus wasn't aware of this when they voted for it. And commentators like such as Bryce Edwards wrote about it that Jacinda Ardern should have sacked Narayan Mahuta, but Mahuta was one of the prominent figures of the Maori caucus within the Labour Party. They secured Labour's majority in Parliament, so she was too powerful, and Jacinda Ardern couldn't have told her that she should give up these policies, these behaviors, because that would come back to both of them. Jacinda Ardern should have taken chances. She couldn't. I think it's not conscious with her. It's not. It's caused by this mental health condition, which was not yet thoroughly analyzed. But also, she routinely avoids situations where she should take chances. Running up to the election, that's a big take of chances. She didn't do it. So in a way, the election chances for her also caused her resignation. That's the argument for today. I hope you enjoyed. It is debatable, of course, and hopefully the technicalities will improve with time. Thank you for your patience, and see you in the next one.